We're live for another conversation. This time we're going to be talking about Touriga Franca. We're doing those lives on behalf of Wines of Portugal. You're very welcome to join us. Send us your wave. Tell us where you're watching from. And also, more importantly, send us your questions. I have a fabulous guest today, a person who represents a new generation of winemakers in Portugal with experience worldwide. And we're here to help you. We're here to answer your questions. I have some of mine. And as soon as my guest, who is Vasco Rosa Santos, waves, I will invite him in and we start this live. In the meantime, I can tell you a little bit about Touriga Franca, which is one of the pillars of the Portuguese wines. Touriga Franca, it's crucial in ports. It appears in many blends, and slowly we begin to see the variety as a single variety on labels. It's very good for growers. Is in terms of production, it gives very good yields, and it's quite resistant to diseases. It's also good for winemakers because it's easy to manage in a vineyard. It's performs well in blends also. And for us as a consumer, it has a lovely silky texture. It's a very elegant variety. So if you enjoy Malbec, if you enjoy Merlot, if you enjoy Shiraz, I think it's Touriga Franca is a very good bet. You should give it a go. I have three wines here with me today, and we'll taste and we'll talk about it in a while. For those of you who don't know, it is a very important variety in Portugal. It is the second most planted grape variety in Portugal after Tinta Roriz. It has less statistics that I've seen. It has around 12,667 hectares planted, so it's pretty important. But it's planted, a lot of the plantings are actually in the Douro, and we'll talk about that in a second. Let me just see if I can find our friend. He hasn't appeared yet, so we must have a small issue here with... He's not here yet, but as soon as he is, he can send us a wave, and I'm here. And if you wanna fire any questions, I will. I have a few questions already sent to me in advance. If you have a few questions, feel free to ask me. One of the questions that I have, it came from Agilson, which is one of our regular viewers. I was gonna pose this question to Vasco, who as soon as he joins us, but I'll try to answer myself. His question was, Touriga Franca is the second most planted grape variety in Portugal, but it's rarely seen as a variety. Why do you think this is? It's a good question, and you're right. We rarely see this variety. I have tried many times. I was trying to write an article about Touriga Franca, and it wasn't easy to find a single variety wine. I have tasted a few. I think. Let me see. I will try again and see if I can find Vasco. Vasco, if you are here, please. I cannot see you here, but send us a wave or send me a request to join this live. I cannot see you, sadly. But if you can see me, just send me a request, and I'll let you in. In the meantime, I will carry on answer the question. So as I said, I was trying to write this article. I didn't see many, and I spoke to a lot of people, a lot of producers from Douro, from Alentejo, and so on. And I asked why is this is the case, and there's a very simple answer to this. It's called commercial interest by journalists, commercial interest by buyers and by us as consumers. So there hasn't been much interest so far. I think as we go along, we will see more varieties. For example, a Quinta da Romera in the Douro, they released the first vintage in 2016. And since then, they have a lot of commercial success. And obviously, if that's the case, they will carry on. And we, as a consumer, as we appreciate, and as I said earlier, the variety reminds me of the silky texture of Touriga Franca, reminds me of Malbec, reminds me of Merlot, and so on. And I think as we begin to enjoy, and what I like the most about the variety is the texture and the silkiness. So as we begin to appreciate this, we will see more and more of Touriga Franca in the labels. For sure. Let me see if I have any more questions, and sadly no. Let me see if I can. I apologize for this. Here we go. I think I'll follow him. I think I can see him. Let's try. Been a while. But anyway, I've answered the first question. I sent him a request, and hey, how you doing? I couldn't see your request, my friend, and I was trying to keep it going into a see you. But it's great to see you. And I already answered the first question from a friend from São Paulo who sent me the question in advance, and the question why isn't this variety more why is it not seen in more in front labels? And I think it's more to do with the commercial aspect. People are beginning to appreciate the Touriga Franca. So anyway, do you have an opinion on that? Why don't we see more varietal wines from Touriga Franca?
Yes, for sure. Touriga Franca, it's as you have said before, it's a widely spread variety in Douro. It gives high yields, as you said, and normally it performs better in a poor soils. So in richer soils, it gives you high yields and not as good wine as it should. Okay. So it normally is used for blendings.
Yeah.
And if you speak about Douro and the red wines, you will always hear about Touriga Nacional and less about Touriga Franca. I think sincerely it's about it's a commercial issue. It's not easy to sell varietals, as you know. It's at least Portuguese varieties. I know that Alvarinho or Touriga Nacional, it's easier to sell, but Touriga Franca, if you talk to anyone around the world, probably they won't know all about this variety. So it's a matter of commercial issue.
So thank you. You can correct me whatever I said earlier on, but I think that was my opinion, and I'm glad that you agree. But for those of you who, thanks for joining us, Vasco. I just need to introduce you briefly. Vasco is, as I said, is a great guest to have. He's got a broad knowledge of viticulture and winemaking, not only in Portugal but also outside Portugal. He did his degree in agronomy and also a postgraduate in Lisbon, and then he did his master degree in UC Davis. And I think you joined Ravasqueira in 2012, but before that you worked in New Zealand. Is that right?
That's right, 2007.
You joined in 2007?
No, I joined Ravasqueira in 2012 and I worked in New Zealand in 2007.
Okay. And Vasco, I was reading something. I was doing my homework yesterday. The people who pushed you to get into the wine industry, was it your brothers?
That's right. I tried I tried to be a doctor, but
Okay.
I wasn't clever enough. So they brought me into wine world, and 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 at first I was seeking food engineering. I was not
All right.
seeking for wine, but
Uh-huh.
very quickly I entered this world, and I was seduced by it, and now I'm working for 15 or 16 years now, and it's my world, and I'm really glad I chose
You
this
said that.
path. But yes,
Fantastic.
my other two brothers brought me
They,
to this.
they were the guilty ones.
Yeah.
Vasco, let's talk about Touriga Franca. I've got a quick question for you, very simply. Can you describe Touriga Franca in 3 words for us?
Yes, for me, and it will always be my own judgment.
Uh-huh.
But I think Touriga Franca, it's well described by being, it's really powerful,
Right.
it's discreet, okay, and it gives longevity. Okay, I think 3 words that describes really good this grape. It is a grape to have in the cellar and to evolve inside a bottle. Okay.
Good. That's a good answer. You said it's powerful. I associate Touriga Franca with more elegance and the texture and its silkiness. And when I was writing an article, I was talking to the people early on. When I was trying to write an article, I spoke to a few people, and one of the winemakers in Douro told me something that stuck to my mind, and I'd like to share with you and see what you think and what other people think. But when I asked him about Touriga Franca, he said Touriga Franca is like a glue that holds the blend together. As soon as you put Touriga Franca in the blend, everything comes into place. I don't know if you have a similar experience. Is there a very good blend component?
It is a perfect blend component. Okay, and we also use it in Rabasqueira. If you know our Vinha das Romãs, it's always made of Touriga Franca and Syrah, and they are completely different varieties. In terms of profile, of aromatic profile, they are not similar, okay? And they complement really, really well. But, and you will ask me if I don't think a varietal will ever be as complex as a blend, okay? So that's my only issue about making varietals. I know time can compensate that, and vinification and other choices that we can make with only one variety, but making blends, and Portugal is it is a country of blends. I think a blend will always be a bit more complex, at least in the beginning.
There's a question here for you. Thanks for that, Vasco. There's a question here for you. I'm going to actually ask you the question and also add a little bit more. How long were you in New Zealand for? And what did they... And I think before I ask the question, because I think it's a very interesting thing, because a lot of the winemakers, especially the younger generation, are going away from Portugal to get more experience. I think that's very good. But my question is, how long are you there for? This is not my question, somebody else's question.
I spent there a vintage. I spent a vintage 3 months only, and the goal was to see the whites there and how they were done, and Sauvignon Blanc in particular. Of course, then we crossed with Pinot Noir from the southern part of New Zealand, and that was a quite good experience, because they are doing quite good stuff there, and that was me working in the cool climate region, okay, completely different from Portugal. That was the main goal of being there.
And what was your main takeaways? What did you learn that really stuck to you in terms of experience?
the main was the pragmatic approach to vinification and to enology. That's they are much more uh, objective. They
Uh-huh.
they don't take too long to take any initiative or take any action on the wine. They know what they want, and their main focus, okay, it's on the consumer, and I think the old world and Portugal not as much now, but we were used to do our own wine and talking good stuff about them, but we were not normally looking for the consumer and for the old the old world of consumption of wine that is taking place in UK, States, even in China or okay. So have you have to be always focused on the consumer. Okay,
That's a good
that's
it's a good recipe for success there.
no. This is not being. It doesn't take you away from having good wine or making a really rich and complex wine,
Uh-huh.
but it guides you towards a goal. Okay,
Good.
and it's easier for you to explain the wine when you know what the final goal is. Okay.
There's a question here from someone. It's a two-part question. I'm gonna leave. Thanks. There's a question from Gonçalo Ribeirinho. Thank you, Gonçalo. I'm going to leave the first part of the question for later because we talk specifically about your wine.
Yeah.
That's a great question, and you preempted one of my questions, so thank you, Gonçalo. But the second part of the question talks about Touriga Franca and in Alentejo. It's not a very common variety in Alentejo, correct?
It's not common, but it is planted all over Alentejo. Okay, but again, it's not seen as a varietal. And Vasco does it for some years now, at least since 2013, I think. I don't quite remember. I think it was the first one was 13 or 12. I don't quite remember, but it was always together with Syrah and the Alicante Boucher. It was always one of the best grape varieties inside the winery. And I had an experience, and again with my older brother and he has Touriga Franca in other projects in Alentejo, in richer soils, okay, and the result was not good, wasn't good, okay, and in Ravasqueira, in poor soils with lower yields. And of course, we have water irrigation in our vineyards, but lower yields. It gives you a perfect balance. And if some winemakers from Douro, they tell you that sometimes Touriga Franca lacks acidity, or for us, it's not true. Okay. It brings a lot of acidity and freshness and some herbal notes, some that we desperate in Alentejo need, right? Because we have too much hot temperatures going on in the Verazon and the vintage. So I think it's a perfect match. Even comparing with Lisbon, with the region Lisbon or even Setúbal or Tejo, I think Alentejo is much more suited for Touriga Franca compared to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at some stats yesterday. I shared with people earlier in terms of it's the second most planted, and I gave it the hectares, and etc. It's widely planted in Douro.
But
Is by far the most planted variety in Douro. The second one, I think, is over 10,000 hectares planted in Douro. The second is Tinta Roriz, and that's 5,920 hectares. So it's substantially less.
Mhm.
And it appears a bit more in Trás-os-Montes. It's less than 1,000 hectares. But apart from that, it's planted all over Portugal, but in not very much. I mean, round about 100 hectares or even less in Lisbon and so on. And Alentejo has a bit more, but Alentejo is a big area. And Alentejo has got, I think, round about 500 hectares. So it is
growing,
and growing. That's a good. Do you see? That's I think someone also as Jason mentioned in one of his questions also. Is it in your experience? Because we haven't had stats from IVV for a while. In your experience, are you seeing more people planted in Alentejo and elsewhere also?
Definitely.
Yeah, that's my feeling. That's my feeling.
They are seeing the full potential of Touriga Franca. Okay, yeah. And if you, as probably many of you know, Alentejo, it's probably the youngest wine region in Portugal in terms of wine in Portugal, the wine scene in Portugal. But and so we opt for planting the vineyards on soils that were richer, okay? Because vineyards and vines were suited for the poorest soils of all. If you can't grow anything else, grow vines. That it's the only way, or it was the only way of taking anything from that schist soil from Douro. Okay, so that's why Touriga Franca probably was not planted in Alentejo, because it gives you high yields and not as so much quality and color and intensity and because if you have high yields, you will end with a wine with 11.5 or 12 or 12 and a half. Okay, it's not the same as Syrah. Syrah can produce 10 tons, 20 tons, and you get a good wine in the end with color, with intensity. That's not the case when you talk about Touriga Franca. Okay, so that's different.
But Vasco, when you said low yields, I know because I was looking at your technical sheet this morning, and it said 6 ton, which is pretty low.
It's pretty low. We never took any. Como é que se diz caixa? Agora não está a sair.
Bunches.
We never take bunches out of the vines. Okay, we never cut the bunches to the ground. Okay,
that's natural.
It's natural. We are between 6, 7. The maximum we took was 9. Okay, so it's well balanced. And why?
Right.
Our vineyard has now 17 to 20 years old, so it's not an old vines or old vineyard, but it's getting there. So it's difficult for you to get really high yields there. The soils are pretty poor, so and well drained. I think that one of the important aspects of that vineyard, or our soils in particular, are the drainage. Okay, so we don't have the water staying there too long. It goes away very quickly. So it's really good for Touriga Franca. Okay.
There's a question related to this by someone. Thank you, Vinho Tugal. it talks about soil. Actually, ask for the soil. I mean, what is the best soil for Touriga Franca? I think it's Benenza. It's a poor soil. In this case here, I think again, based on what I have seen on the technical sheet, this specific soil is clay limestone with a little bit of granite and some schist. Is that right?
That's right. With an important percentage of sand. Okay. So it has that's what it comes from the drainage. Okay, so that's why we don't have the water staying there too long, because that sand, that percentage of sand, helps the water to goes away, and that is really important, because if you have and now talking about the Touriga Nacional and the relation between Touriga Nacional and Touriga Franca, they are not similar, okay, and they have the name close to each other, but they are not similar in terms of even the floral side or floral aromas, even the growth in the vineyards,
completely separate.
The shoots from Touriga Franca, they grow to the sky, and the Touriga Nacional, they follow to the ground. So they are quite different, even in the vineyard. So they are not similar. And for me, I think Touriga Franca, and I'm always saying this, but for me, Touriga Franca could be the future of Alentejo region.
Wow. Okay, interesting.
Even when we talk about the climate changes, and this will be an issue for 10 years from now or 20 years from now. The temperature will rise, the water will be less present, and we will need Touriga Franca. More probably that suffers much more with the hot climate and with the lack of water in the ground, in the soils, compared to the Touriga Franca.
Okay, I think you already answered another question I had from Agil. So he's talking about the future and so on, but it's I think it's I had written the question somewhere here.
Yeah, don't. I was talking about the future, and I think we have two futures, okay, and two realities. We can talk about Alentejo making a lot of commercial wines and easy drinkable wines. Probably Touriga Franca, it's not as suited to those kind of wines compared to other varieties. If you try to have 20 tons or even more, 20 tons of yields in our vineyards with Touriga Franca, I think you will not have the same quality, and you will downgrade a bit your wines and your commercial wines. If you want to raise and to grow in the top wine, the icon wines, the premium wines, I think Touriga Franca could be a variety to choose.
Good. Let me just I want to just try to share with you guys here some the wines that I'm going to be looking at in a minute. Those are the three wines that I have. 100 hectares from the Douro, and then Passadoro, also from the Douro, from the 17 vintage, and then Rosera. Oh, you have a Quinta do Castro as well. You're a lucky boy as well. Now I've got some. I've tasted the wines. I had a look at it. You got some Manuel Lobo's wine. It's yeah, I've tasted that. It's a great wine. So
it's a 2016.
Wow, you're a lucky boy.
2016 sold or entered to the market in 2019.
So okay. Wow, yeah, it's fantastic.
Time this variety, okay, that's a good.
I'm hoping that other people also are enjoying some Touriga Franca. If anyone is, it's not easy to find, but if anyone is,
tell us what you're drinking, what you drunk in the last few days or whatever. Vasco, we talk about, just to close down on viticulture, we talk about the secrets for making good Touriga Franca. It basically it's plant in the right place, and especially soils that are not over vigorous. Aside from the yield issue, in bringing the yields down, is there anything specific that it requires in terms of care in order to produce a high quality fruit for this variety specifically?
Yes, for me, and talking with some winemakers that I know, and they always told me that Touriga Franca should wait in the vineyard, and it normally is the last one to be picked for for the port wines, and because it doesn't gets to the phase of being a raisin. It never gets there. Okay, so it kept the grape intact, and it never gave that kind of aromas of dry fig or sweet
Raisins, prunes,
sweet raisins, and compotes. Como é que diz compotas?
Stewed fruit.
Jam or
jam and stewed fruit.
That kind of aromas. Okay, so but for me, and because I think Touriga Franca could give you a wine to evolve and to develop inside a bottle. First, of course, aging in oak, because I think it's perfect for that. But then after that, inside the bottle, I think you should pick a bit earlier than it used to be. Okay, because you don't lack acidity, you have freshness, elegance, vibrant tannins that, of course, needs time. And that's the time that normally Portuguese consumer and even Portuguese winemakers, they don't give to the wine. They don't give time to the wine to evolve and to develop and to grow inside a bottle. If you drink a French wine normally, or from Bordeaux, or normally you drink a wine with 10 years or 5 or 6 or even more. So if you drink a Portuguese wine with 3 years or 4, you are telling that he is too old. So that's true. That's a different perspective of. That's why we tend to leave the grapes too much time in the vineyards, because we want to get all the phenolics out of the grape, or rounder tannins, get jammy and ripe fruit on the wine, and sometimes the wine is not always that.
Yeah. Well, so in this, what you just said is very interesting, because if it doesn't, the Touriga Franca doesn't go into those stewed flavors or overripe flavors, and it has a freshness and so on. You said you want to preserve some sort of acidity. If any of us who are watching you now, if we're in charge of, and you cannot be there next vintage, how do you pick the grapes? What do you tell us? Look for this. What are your telltale signs in order to make the decision of when to pick Touriga Franca?
That's a good question. Dirceu, since 2012 we have information about the vineyards, okay, and we always measure phenolics, and this is the technical part that probably some of you won't understand as I will try to explain. But simplifying this explanation, it's about tannins and getting the best tannins and the best anthocyanins, and that anthocyanins is the color. It's not. It's not. Don't remember the name. It's difficult, but it's all about color and phenolics. And we do have some objective parameters that we use to pick the grapes. Okay, and we don't have the when we see that the grapes are not developing in the vineyard, we take them. Okay, so when we see that the color is starting to go down, or phenolics starts to go down, we pick them. Okay, normally in our climates, the raisins, the grainhas,
the pips.
The pips are already brown.
Yeah.
And so I think they are perfect to be picked. And it's a good grape to be at the winery without having the rain starting to show, with a thick skin. You have the time to work with the inside the lagars. You have the time to work with pump overs and all of that. It's a really good grape inside the winery.
Yeah, I was gonna go. Let's talk about the. I think we've done a lot of all my questions. What I want to know about Touriga Franca in the vineyard. So I am, if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna have a small glass of wine now, and then we're gonna move on to the winemaking stuff. But if you guys would like to, if anyone has any questions, if I haven't asked you, there's a question I think, and then thank you. In Alentejo, is the grape picked early or later to give it the best conditions? I think Vasco already answered that. Ideally to pick a bit earlier to maintain freshness. Okay. Anyway, I've got here my first wine that I have.
Sorry. I think complementing that explanation about picking earlier
or later.
Or later. Touriga Franca, it responds quite directly to where it's planted. Okay, so if you have the terroir of Rabasqueira, and the terroir of Rabasqueira, it's the terroir of Rabasqueira. It's not better or worse than other. It's their own terroir. It's different. And if you have a vineyard 3 kilometers from there that starts to burst 3 weeks earlier than ours, and it's 3 kilometers from there, so it's quite different, and that's why the Touriga Franca from Rabasqueira maintains quite better the acidity that I think. It's quite good for the terroir of Rabasqueira, for the kind of wines that Rabasqueira wants to produce, that has longevity, that has the potential of going to a bottle and to age for longer times, for longer. Okay.
Okay. I've got 2 wines before we go to Rabasqueira. There's some questions about Rabasqueira. I've got 2 wines from the Douro. One is a 100 hectare from 2018 vintage. And this wine here, it's from a project they started in the 70s by 2 families. They acquired many vineyards. I think up to 100 hectares. They should be there or thereabouts. Hence the name 100 hectares. And I think they used to sell grapes until 2009. They start to make their own wines, and it's made as you would imagine, hand harvested in small boxes, distemmed, crushed, and it's. The alcoholic fermentation takes place in lagar. And after that, the wine is spent 6 months in oak, and you do find this typical dark fruits, dark chocolate, a really warm climate. I have to be careful what I use in terms of terminology, but it's full of vitality and a very energetic wine. But it's 15.5% alcohol. It's quite a full body. So if you like, you're really deep, rich, powerful. This 100 hectares it's a style of Touriga Franca more on the riper side, contrasting with the second wine which I have in my glass before we talk about Ravasqueira, which is Passadoro. Passadoro is from, for those of you who don't know, it's from Cima Corgo. It's from the Pinhão River Valley. And it's the vineyard's here about 30 years old. It's schist, is about 150 meters altitude, and is made in a similar way, hand harvested, and it's processed in food trodden in lagar, and also the fermentation happens in lagar, and the wine spends 18 months in oak, French oak. And this is, as I said, the 100 hectares is about 15.5% alcohol. This is 14, so it's a little bit more, a little bit fresher.
So I'll just I will bring my other another wine. Okay, I will
Other
open
wine, fine. Go and look for the other wine. In the meantime, I will carry on talking about this this wine from Passadoro, which is it's a good compare and contrast. If you have those two wines, if you ever have a chance to have both wines, one is deeper and richer and more powerful and darker. This is a little bit fresher and has a more energy, lighter in style. But also the oak here it says on the information I received is 18 months in oak. But it's really well judged oak. So I don't, either is a new French oak low toast, or it is larger barrels. I suspect there's a little bit of new, a little bit of old oak, but the oak used here, it's thank you. Yes, you're right. The Passadoro now, it's a project that was bought by. Thank you for your. I forgot to mention that. Someone helped me here. It is a project that was. Thank you, Felipe. It's a project that was bought by Quinta do Noval. So, but it's a delicious wine. It's 2017 vintage, and if you have opportunity to find this wine somewhere, it's drinking beautifully now. And as Vasco said, I think this wine it has more to give. You just have to be patient in terms of.
And you see, sometimes probably you made your own homework, and I did mine. But if you talk about Touriga Franca, you will always get and you always read that it gets to 13.5, 14.5, 14. It never gets too much higher than that in terms of alcohol content, and that's not the case in those wines you are tasting. You said that the 100 hectares has 15.
Yeah, 15.5.
15.5. So Touriga Franca, if planted in the right places, in the right terroir, it could give you a beautiful, rare and powerful and deep wine, red wine. Okay, so I think we are underestimating the Touriga Franca because it's under the wings of Touriga Nacional. I think that's
and somebody, someone said this to me once. Touriga Nacional is like this, is the supermodel, and Touriga Franca is like the girl next door. It's more, you take whatever you like to say, but it's a wine producer who shared that. We can tell because Touriga Nacional has all the attention, and that's I'll leave it like that. So the world
I think, but I think it's perfect because it's far easier to talk about one and not diversing for 2 or 3 or 4 varieties, and that was a good work from Portugal in that case. Okay, I'm not underestimating the work that was done when we projected the Touriga Nacional for the world. It was perfect, but it's time to talk about other stuff. other
Yes, true.
varieties
Yes,
rather
true.
than Alvarinho and Touriga
This is what we're
Nacional.
doing
There's
now.
more.
This is what we're doing on behalf of Wines of Portugal. Is actually trying to tell people about all the varieties. So we have 2 more lives to do. We're going to do about 10. It's so people come out of Alvarinho and Touriga Nacional and begin to explore those varieties like Touriga Franca, Castelão. I had a fantastic experience with the Fernand Pires last week. Last live, which is a few weeks ago. But
And
anyway, this is what we're trying to do. Vasco, before we taste your wines, I want to talk a little bit about winemaking. You mentioned earlier, and I mentioned in my introduction while I was waiting for you about it's good for the producer because it gives good yield, and also good for the winemaker because it's easy to work in the winery. Someone told me one of the disadvantages of Touriga Franca is that it's a little bit difficult to destem. Is that right or not? The connection between the grape variety and the stalk is a little bit resistant. It can be a bit hard. Is that your experience or not? No, in Alentejo.
no, that's
No.
not my experience. I think
So
I think yes. Okay, it's the bunch. It's quite stiff, if I can
yeah,
say that. Okay, it's not the berry. It's quite thick skin, and the skin it's well attached to the
okay.
stalk. But I think it's not a problem inside the winery. Okay, I think that these steamers they do the work and they do a
To the
quite
job.
good work. It's not. I think it's not the case of having bad wine off because of that. It's just a matter of having a good steamer and even if it goes some of the stalks goes to a lagar. What's the problem if they are
Yeah.
that could give you some
Structure and
complexity to the fermentation and to the wine in the end.
absolutely.
It's not all bad.
Yeah, as long as they're not green. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as they are not green
Green.
and in Portugal you can have that maturation even in the stalks.
Uh-huh.
That's not probably the case in some other regions, but in Portugal I think we do have that, and longer they stay in the vineyard, more they will get brown and mature. But I think in terms of fermentation and getting there, I think the Touriga Franca is perfect because of the skin and the thick skin that it has. It doesn't give you a blurry wine in the end with a lot of lees and
So
it's quite clean. It's quite clean. So you can punch the how do you say the manta
the cap, the
cap. You can work with the cap and punch the cap for longer. Normally we use we let the temperatures goes a little bit higher than probably the wineries or the winemakers. And the reason is it's the color. Okay, the stabilization of the color it's made with temperature as well. Okay, and if you get the higher temperature, you will get a more stable color in the end. And if you work with oxygen, and we do a lot of work with oxygen, that's why we use the lagage. But even if you use the lagage, we use pure oxygen. Okay? Because the reason is why we try to create before the malolactic fermentation a staldehyde. Okay, so if you get compound, that how this molecule,
Yeah.
that is perfect for getting a really good color in the end.
Okay.
The oxygen, it's really important with Touriga Franca.
Yeah.
Not for the fermentation or the yeast, or no. I think it's much more important for the color stabilization and for the creation of acetaldehyde. And in the end, you'll get a really complex and color red wine.
So it works. It works for the question here. It works well in lagars. And the question is from someone: does Alentejo uses lagar or only Douro? I think it's fair to say it's more prevalent in the Douro. But yes, there are some people using lagares. You use lagares. I know Júlio Bastos use lagares.
Dirceu, I don't know if you are talking about the typical lagars that use the persons and feet, the feet of people.
Yeah.
But probably a lot of Alentejo wineries have mechanized lagars.
Yeah.
With robots and
yes, bro.
Okay, and even Douro has that kind of lagars.
No, look, but I think just because we have about 7 minutes to go, and I want to taste your wines. But I think is a good answer. It's more prevalent in the Douro. However, I have found many people. You use lagar. Júlio Bastos use lagares. Esporão uses lagares. I'm sure more people use lagares in the Alentejo, but it is more prevalent in the Douro. Thank you very much. I think Sophia is posting the name of the wines. Sophia from Wines of Portugal, whose live we're doing on behalf of Wines of Portugal, and thanks for all the support of Wines of Vini Portugal, and also from Sophia. And let's talk about your wine. It's what is special? I mean, you talk about. I think we already know it's how you picked, and you talked about the soils and so on. Is there anything else to tell us? It's a very small plot. It's only 1.5 hectares. It's a small plot, is it?
Yeah. We only have two plots of Touriga Franca.
Mm.
One is the Vinha das Romãs, and it's a single vineyard with Syrah. And the other one, it's that plot of 1.5. It's called the Vinha da Ribeira, and it is quite small, and it is quite poor, a really poor soil. And for me, the special thing about this wine, and it's to say that Alentejo, a hot climate that is, can give you a really elegant and fresh wine. You are drinking the 2017.
Yeah.
Yes?
No, yeah, 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
And I think you could probably drink this wine from maybe 10 years from now, or even
lovely freshness. It's got more of dark fruits, black fruits, and blue fruits. I really like the Vasco. I really like the tightness of the structure. The tannins are really fine grain, and then lovely subtlety, and the rambunctiousness of the fruit.
Do you think as a critic, a wine critic, are the tannins perfect yet? Not.
They are there. I can feel the tannins, but they are really fine grain. I think
They evolve.
They're beautiful tannins. They are really sophisticated tannins. They are there. I can see them. Yes, but they are sophisticated. They are fine grain tannins, as I call. Yeah. Vasco, one thing, we have 5 minutes. One thing that I observed from the technical sheet, I don't know if it's right or not, is the wine is handpicked in small boxes. Then it goes into a cooling room for 48 hours. Is that right?
Yeah. It's not a
And
cooling
then,
room because we don't have the cooling room, but we have containers that we put
okay. But,
that we
but it
put
goes
for the
into,
harvest.
but I'm curious because it goes into a cooling place, which is normal. But then what the technical sheet, what I've seen, what I've read was after that you do the sorting and you do the after that you do the distilling and you do more cold maceration for 72 hours. Is that right?
Is that right? It's right. Yes. We I
So
use
two.
I use a technique. I use a technique for the maceration, and it's if you have cold temperature in the grapes, you can cold macerate the grapes. If you do not, and if you pick the grapes and you enter the winery with 20 or 22 degrees, you'll probably get starting some kind of yeast working on the grapes, or even bacteria. So you will not get the clear and the clearness of the yeast. Okay, it's really important, and that's the pragmatic approach of the new world enology. You don't let anything to the outside to decide. You decide your own wine. Okay, so that's
You take control. You take control.
you take control. If you don't put the temperature down and you want to make a maceration, probably you can go wrong, and you can get not a good wine in the end. So try to be perfect and to make the right decisions all the way, since the beginning till the end.
No, I think it's your answer is good, is comprehensive. I'm just curious. There is such a two periods of cold, one whole bunch maceration, and then this time and again. But it's the thing is, as you said, complete control. No problems with in terms of any bad bacteria or so on, bad yeast starting the. So the wine is very pure, very clean, lovely wine.
That's
Vasco, I just wanted to thank you. We are coming out to the end of our conversation. I still have so many questions. I have many questions prepared, but it's been a conversation, and it's I realize how short it is because I've got another 20 questions I want to ask you. I think maybe I have to come to Ravasqueira and carry on talking about Touriga Franca. But in the meantime, I think people should look out for Touriga Franca and try some of the varietal wines because they will like it. I am certain that the consumer would like because it's so soft, so silky, so elegant.
Just let me say the last thing about Touriga Franca and why we should drink Touriga Franca, and people will get confident if they start drinking varietals from Touriga Franca because they will see the consistency of the variety, and you will see that even from Douro or even from Alentejo, the variety it's you know it's Touriga Franca. Okay.
Yeah.
As you know, it's a Syrah or it's a Touriga Nacional. You can describe it, and you have points of contact of a Touriga Franca made in Douro or a Touriga Franca made in Alentejo. Okay, and that's important because people want to know the Touriga Franca has some kind of profile. Okay? And it's recognizable. That's important. You can recognize the Touriga Franca made in Alentejo and made in Douro. Okay? That's important.
It is important, and I think what will seduce people is the texture. It's if you like Pinot, if you like it's heavier than Pinot, but I like the silkiness of Pinot. And if you like the fruit forward Syrah and so on, Malbec. Vasco, we're coming out of our time. I have to cut off this because otherwise we will lose this recording and it will be a scene. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks very much, Vini Portugal, for making this happening. And we'll look forward to the next live. Vasco.
Cheers.
To your health. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dirceu.
Thank you.